So I started my morning with Aquila pooping on my white carpet in my bedroom right next to my bed. Then I went down to get my laundry out of the laundry machine just to find that all my new white clothes had turned green. That was all before coffee. It got better, thankfully. The day has gotten a little bit better. So that's the update on the dog. I was not a happy mama. And I was talking to another person in the adoption industry and telling her that, and she's like, puppies are worse than babies. And I was like, hell yes. Because babies, while they cry, one, they have distinctive cries, so you usually know what they're crying about. And two, you set them down and they don't move. So they're much easier, yes. Can they drive you bonkers because of crying? And there are times where you can't figure it out, of course, but they can't move. So most likely they're not going to hurt themselves and they're not going to ruin everything. Anywho, how's your week been? Tell me some things about your week. So that was just a Friday, but she's been okay. She got her vaccines yesterday, or a second set of vaccines, and so I think that may have led to some weird behaviors, if you will, but it's all good. And the good news is I get a dog and I'm thinking, I'll go on walks, right? I'll go on more walks and I'll move my body more. And then you get a puppy and they're like, don't take them anywhere that any other dogs have walked. So you have to keep them only in your yard. So I'm like, okay, I need to get out, veer out. But now that she's had more shots, I can walk her around the block, which is great. And walking around the block with a new puppy who's like, what is everything? What are all these smells and sounds and sights is, it can take you about a half hour to get around the block, but it is what it is. Happy Pride Month to all of our LGBTQ plus people, clients, hopeful parents, families, birth moms, adoptees, celebrating you this month and proud to do so. It's also the month of Father's Day. So for all you new papas out there, that's exciting. And let's see, we have Juneteenth coming up this month to acknowledge. And I don't know hopefully I'm not missing anything else. That's a lot in 1 month. This week, it's interesting. We had a situation with a 6-year-old, with an older child. And I think I may have done a post about this somewhere, but I wanted to just mention that this year we have seen way more older children, meaning non-infants, than I ever have since I've been in business. And it's interesting. There are a lot of people who say, yes, they're interested in presenting, and yet we're not cleared for more than an infant. So one thing is that maybe if you're just starting the home study process, you clear yourself for whatever, infant through 10 or infant through 6, in case you should process it more and change your mind, or continue to think about it. And if you do think that's something you're open to, you can circle back to your home study agency and have that discussion. Now, just because you think you might be open to an older child, I also want you to think about everything that comes along with that. There's a lot more trauma, counseling, triggers for you, triggers for the child. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I want you to give it some really deep thought. Sometimes you may think you are right for a situation, and then as conversations happen and as you learn more, something may get triggered in you, and you may find out that you actually may not be the right match for a situation. That is okay. That is okay. If anybody out there in the adoption world is doing their job right, they want the match to be the right match. So whatever you do throughout your journey, be honest with yourself. Continue to check in with yourself. Do a gut check. Is something feeling off? Listen to that. Ask questions. I wanted to bring that up because that's been coming up a lot. I've also seen expectant mamas who are thinking of making an adoption plan want to see many, many more adoptive profiles. Perhaps it's because they know there's an influx of hopeful parents, so they can have the pick of the litter and choose who they think is the right fit and the right match for them. So I was just talking to somebody today who said this is like the second or third expectant mama who has seen like 30 profiles because they wanted to, not because the agency offered up 30 profiles, because that's a lot. And there are some agencies who will automatically do that, but typically 3 to 5 profiles is plenty. And sometimes there's agencies who show just a couple or maybe one at a time. So there's all sorts of different ways agencies work and different ways that expectant moms want to work as well. So hopefully there's some common ground when it all comes together, meaning what the expectant mother is expecting, how the agency works, and making sure that a really solid match and the right match is made. So those are a couple things that have come up this week. Let's see what else came up this week. A doozy of an article from Time Magazine through Newsy. I think Newsy covered it or wrote it in Time Magazine. Yeah, the story was reported and published in partnership with Newsy. It was a doozy. Between reading the book American Baby, got by Gabrielle Glazer, which was really intense, and seeing this article that just came out. It's called The Baby Brokers Inside America's Murky Private Adoption Industry. It's hard to read. It makes me stop in my tracks and sometimes I wonder what I'm doing in this industry, really hoping that I am always doing the right things by my families and ethically. That's why we place such a huge emphasis on education and community. And I know I am a broken record, but I will stop and say it again. Education and community are two things that you absolutely need before your journey, throughout your journey, and for the rest of your lives. After you adopt doesn't mean your education ends. So please, please, please continue to educate yourself. Continue to learn new ways that you can best serve your child and yourself and your family, whatever your family will come to look like as an adoptive family. There, unfortunately, is not any sort of adoption reform as far as laws across the United States. It sucks. It's awful. And this article talks about the real supply and demand, really, how hopeful parents have become, I don't know if they use the word desperate or just wanting infants, and there aren't a lot of them where it's driving the cost up. And it's awful. And certain states are worse than others. And yet there are no laws to really regulate anything. And it's interesting because I thought about a while ago really trying to change that from a consultant standpoint on a federal level, but to think about changing federal views or going state to state to state to state, just me alone, trying to get some regulations around even just consultants is a big task that I'm not sure I'm up for. But I'm up for it happening, and I think it needs to happen. And hopefully, there are wonderful groups out there pushing for adoption reform, and I hope it happens. Adam Purtman, who is the president of the National Center on Adoption and Permanency, was talking about how when you have money involved with anything having to do with the human life, it really murks things up. And so I sit here every single day trying to do the right thing by guiding our families to the right places, who I believe are doing the right things and are having the right conversations. And yet it's still a business, which is okay if the right conversations are being had by and between everyone. Meaning, are expectant mothers being given all of their choices? Are they being told things like if they change their mind, they're going to have to pay it all back, which is what a lot of this article talks about, which you can imagine what that would do to an expectant mother who was struggling after a couple months in or being matched, right? Having no money to pay anything back and then feeling stuck. So is that the conversation going on with agencies and expectant mamas? Are you, as hopeful parents, asking the right questions and keeping the agencies accountable? Even though the agencies have a million families to go to, that's part of the problem too. There's so many families that if one challenges and the agency doesn't like that, they can go to the next family. So then the family doesn't want to challenge or ask questions to upset the agency. So I'm going to challenge all of us, if you're in the journey, keep asking questions. Don't be that desperate to just say yes to anything that comes your way. Keep asking questions and keep holding agencies and attorneys accountable to do the right thing and to have the right conversations. It's something I think about all the time, and I can only go by what the answers that I receive and the conversations that I have. So yeah, there was a doozy of an article that came out. Anyways, just a lot to think about, a lot to ponder. Stay hopeful, keep asking questions, keep checking in with yourself, and trust your gut. And don't let your puppy poop on your white carpet. That's why I keep looking, I don't trust anymore. All right, I think I'm gonna go take her out. She's pacing.